Hello students, welcome to a video about reviewing for the final exam. I will give you a little bit of information about the final, then I'm going to give you a combination of formulas and calculated procedures you want to make sure that you get down, and then will give you a couple maybe examples on the calculator, just point out a couple things, and then I'll finish up by giving you what I call my best advice. So if you would, hope this helps you. Okay, so here's some things we're talking about the final exam. Unit 3 and Unit 4. That means lessons 14 through 23. I think 14 was the central limit theorem, 23 was the regression line. The general focus of the content is the confidence interval and hypothesis testing. There are other things on there, but that's the general focus. 20 to 25 questions. Okay, so that's not a lot of questions, and you have 2 hours to take it. So think about that. The answers are fill in the blank type, matching, and multiple choice. Now, when I say fill in the blank, I mean you have to figure out the number, like the quiz. And then when I say the matching and the multiple choice, you had a matching type situation where you had to pick a number in a drop-down menu, or multiple choice where you had to select those parts of the answers that are correct, okay? So it's not like what we normally mean by multiple choice, but you understand that because you took the quizzes. All right, and then last, your final exam is most like the quizzes. Most like the quizzes. So please keep that in mind. All right, and I'm calling this not to worry. Worry is a waste of time. Now, if you will work very, very hard and be very, very diligent about your preparation, you should meet with a lot more success. Now, one thing I want to just sort of take your mind off of here, you don't have to memorize all the assumptions, okay? We're assuming, okay, that you would know how to do that. So you don't have to memorize on the proportion, you know that NP has got to be greater than 10, okay? So put your mind at ease at that. You just need to know how to do the problems. And then regarding the theory, okay, we're not testing you on the theory per se. You don't have to figure out how the central limit theorem came to be. You just got to know how to use it. So please keep that in mind. Hope that helps you. Okay, folks, I'm calling this formulas and calculated procedures. Don't forget, you need to know the sample standard deviation. That was this S sub x bar. Okay, that's equal to the population standard deviation over the square root of the n. So keep that in mind. You're trying to find probabilities of the sample distribution. And don't forget, you can use this normal CDF function on your calculator. That's lower, upper, standard deviation. And remember, this is a sample standard deviation if it's talking about the sample. All right, next, when we're talking about proportions, P is the population proportion. X is the amount in our sample in the category we're considering, and N is the total number of people we surveyed. P hat is the point estimate. It is the X over N, so keep that in mind. Of course, we assume that P hat is P when we need to, when we don't have P. Now, please keep in mind, you do need to know the sample, the standard deviation of P hat, and it's the square root of P times its complement divided by N, okay? A lot of times you could do that on the calculator, but there may be a question or two where you need to know that. Please remember, when you're talking about a normal distribution, these tails never touch. So if the lower is to the left, you're going to use this. If the upper is to the right, you're going to use this. Please keep that in mind. Also about rounding, you'll have some round to the nearest tenth, round to the 2 places, 3 places. I believe that your correlation coefficient is 3 places. And then a lot of the p-values are 4 places. So please keep that in mind. Here's my little example down here at the bottom, 0.531. Maybe that's an R, okay? So please round correctly. All right, very good. What are some other things that you need to know? When we're talking about confidence intervals, okay, we're talking about a range of values that you're using to estimate the population mean, for example. So let's say we use this political guy, Ben Carson, the brain surgeon. And let's just say his popularity is 20 to 28%. Okay, 20 to 28% of people will vote for him, let's just say, okay? Now, we are assuming at a certain confidence level that if we polled everybody in the country, that it would fall between those two values. Remember, this is the lower one, and this is the upper, lower or upper bound. Don't forget your z-interval, okay? You use the z-interval when you know the population standard deviation. Now, there are a few questions. Find n. Find n. That's where you have to find the number of people that you need to poll. These are in the quizzes as well. So find n given all the other things, okay, which will be supplied to you. So how many people do we need to poll in order for such and such? Let's just say we're looking for a mean. And so here's one formula you need to know. N is equal to CV, that's your critical value, times your population standard deviation over the margin of error, that whole quantity squared. Okay, please practice putting that in your calculator. Remember, at 90% it was 1.645, at 95% 1.96, 99 was 2.576. Now let's just say you forgot those numbers. You could use the inverse norm function of your calculator and put the percentage, 0, and 1, and it'll give you, this instance will give you the 1645 back again, okay? I'm pretty sure about that. I'll check on that. You know what? I just messed up on that. That would be the 95, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's explain that. If I want a 90% confidence level from the mean, I want this area and this area being, I want this whole region being 90%. Okay, if that's true, what's left over here? 5. So if I was doing this like we used to do this, if I have 5 over here, this is really 95. Okay, so make sure you set that up right. So that should be 95 over here. Okay, glad I figured that out, caught that mistake. All right, don't forget, if you're doing a t-interval, you do not know the sample standard deviation. So since you don't know, you don't know the population standard deviation, so you're going to have to use the sample. Please keep that in mind. About proportions, this is the calculator command you're looking for when you do an interval with proportions. Now, you will have a question or two, find n in a proportion, okay? So I don't want anybody to miss it, and the way you do that is you use this little formula. P times its complement times CV over m squared. Okay, that will give you the n. Don't forget to round up. Don't forget to round up. Okay, now, you use that formula if P is given. What if P is not given? If P is not given, you use this 0.25 and then the same command here, and that should work out for you. So please keep that in mind. All right, let's finish up talking about these errors. Type 1. I call that the false alarm. False alarm. Whereas you thought you won the football game, and now there's a review of a play, and oh no, you think maybe you didn't get that touchdown, but no, it works out okay. That was a false alarm. What does that mean? That you are rejecting the null hypothesis when you shouldn't, okay? You're rejecting when you shouldn't, so please keep that in mind. Type 2, okay? This is a missed detection. My illustration was you have diabetes, they did a test and they didn't tell you. That was a missed detection. That's not good. So this is, you're not rejecting the null hypothesis when you should. You have good reason to reject it, so keep that in mind. Okay, on the hypothesis testing, okay, you're accepting the value when you do not reject, okay? So it's something that you're testing to see whether the accepted value is true or not. What you're trying to do is you're trying to challenge, okay? You're either going to keep it or reject it. You only reject it when you have a lot of evidence. Remember, this is an example of your null hypothesis. This is less than, greater than, and differ. These are the words you're looking for: less, more, differ, something along that line in the problem. Finding the p-value, okay? You find your p-value, and it's really a measure of the chance that you could possibly be wrong with your conclusion. Level of significance, 0.05, 0.01, these are standard ones that you see in your questions. And here's the bottom line. When p is less than alpha, you reject your null hypothesis. And then you say there is evidence that such and such, okay, is less or more or whatever. When p is greater than a, you really don't have a lot of confidence in doing that. So you're just going to say, I do not reject. That means you're going to keep what was understood before, and you're going to say there's not enough evidence, such and such, such and such. Okay? My advice is, if you have time, figure out your conclusion and write it out. Then look at the answer. That may help you out. All right, don't forget about the regression line and correlation. Put your x values in L1, your y values in L2. Okay? You remember, you're using the calc part of the stat command, and you got to use number 8. Number 8 looks like this. In the word problems, it looks like this. Okay, it means the same thing. Okay, so make sure when you're answering those questions, you round R to 3 decimal places, and you follow the directions to the T so that you can get the right number answer. Don't forget, on your calculator, go to distributions, and you're going to be using the second one a lot. Okay, so you give me a set of x values along the bottom of a distribution, it'll spit out a probability or area. 3, given the area, find the x value. That's very, very helpful. Also, don't forget your test here. This is let's just go to the intervals first, okay? So 7 is the z interval, 8 is the t interval, okay? And I do believe there is your 1 proportion z interval, all right? So remember that. Also, don't forget over here your z-test, okay? Your t-test, and then your 1 proportion z-test. You're using these for your hypothesis test. Okay, I hope that helps you out. Don't forget, when you are have data given to you, you're going to go into your data editor, and you're going to put your values in L1. And that way, if you're doing a stat test, and let's just say you were doing that, right? Okay, you know to put data, there you go, your values are in L1. So let me just finish with some best advice. Number 1, you can do this. Number 2, get some other things out of the way. You should be already through the quizzes and the test. Get them out of the way so that you can concentrate. Don't sabotage your own self. Now, in this exam, I've been there. I'm a witness. I took it. I got a 95. I made a careless mistake. I didn't check my work. But you can do this. These questions are like the quiz. So my advice is run through the quizzes until it's almost second nature to you. Because I gave you the background on the content and in the formulas. That should be not a big deal now. Practice the problems. That's what you need, some practice. It is going to require a level of concentration. So if you practice on the quizzes, it'll help develop that concentration. Play this video back if you need to. I wish you well. Okay, best wishes.